Let's solve multi-step equations. First, we will identify the type of equation and simplify. Second, we'll identify the operations and their inverses. Third, we'll solve. And fourth, we'll check our answer by evaluating. Let's look at this problem. Remember, the goal of solving equations is to find the value of the variable that makes both expressions equal, in this case x. First, let's notice there are three terms on the left-hand side. This means this is a multi-step equation with like terms. Let's identify the three terms: negative 2x, negative 5, and positive 8x. Of these three terms, there are only two that are like terms: negative 2x and 8x. When you simplify, you get 6x. Negative 5 is a constant and doesn't have a like term, so we just bring it down. Then we bring down equals and 43. Now, we can't combine 6x and negative 5. We'll just write what this says. 6 times a number minus 5 equals 43. The operations we wrote are times 6 and minus 5. Because we wrote two operations, this is a two-step equation. Now let's identify the inverse operations. The inverse of minus 5 is plus 5. The inverse of times 6 is divide by 6. First, we will add 5 to both sides, and then we will divide 6 on both sides. Let's solve. Let's add 5 on both sides. Starting from the left, bring down the 6x. Notice this says minus 5 and plus 5. This is known as the additive inverse, and it is equal to 0. Next, we will simplify the right-hand side. 43 plus 5 equals 48. Now, this is a one-step equation that says 6 times a number equals 48. Now we know the inverse of times is divide. So let's divide both sides by 6. Let's simplify. 6x divided by 6 is x. 48 divided by 6 is 8. Remember, there's an invisible coefficient of 1 and an invisible positive. But they're invisible, so we don't need to write them down. Now we are done, and we have found that the value of x is 8. Let's check and make sure our solution is correct. Start by rewriting the original equation. Negative 2 times a number minus 5 plus 8 times that number equals 43. Let's evaluate. We will be evaluating twice since there are two variables. At this time, we don't need to look at the right-hand side, so let's cover it up. Starting from the left, we're going to read negative 2. There's x, and we are saying it's 8. Be careful. This looks like negative 28. But we know that says negative 2 times 8. So we will use parentheses to show multiplication. Minus 5 plus 8. There's x again, so let's substitute 8. Careful, this looks like 88, but we know that says 8 times the number. So let's use parentheses to show multiplication. Now that we have just numbers, we need to figure out the order of the operations. There are parentheses, but there's only 8 inside. There's nothing to simplify or do. There are no visible exponents. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply. Starting from the left, negative 2 times 8 is negative 16, minus 5 plus 8 times 8. There are parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we can't simplify. There are no visible exponents, and again, we will multiply. Starting from the left, negative 16, minus 5, plus, and 8 times 8 equals 64. Now that we only have subtraction and addition, we have to remember that we go left to right. Starting on the left, let's simplify. Negative 16 minus 5 equals negative 21 plus 64. Now let's add. Negative 21 plus 64 equals 43. Now that we're done with the left-hand side, let's cover it up and look at the right-hand side. Here is the integer 43. There's nothing to do. There are no operations. You cannot simplify. So we're just going to bring down 43. And keep bringing it down until it matches the other side. Now we're going to look at both sides. And you're going to ask yourself, does 43 equal 43? Yes, this is a true statement. 43 does equal 43. This means the value of x is correct. Our solution is 8, not 43. Now let's look at this problem. The first thing you should notice is there are 3 terms on the left-hand side. This means this is a multi-step equation with like terms. So let's combine. But first, let's identify these terms. Starting from the left, 24, negative 9x, and positive 8. Now, because negative 9x is the only term with a variable, we're going to bring it down. Notice 24 and 8 are like terms. They are constants. Constants are like terms and can be combined. So 24 and positive 8 equals positive 32. Let's bring down the equal sign and the 5. Now, negative 9x and 32 cannot be combined. So let's write down what this equation says starting from the left. Negative 9 times a number plus 32 equals 5. What are the operations we wrote? Times negative 9 plus 32. Because we wrote 2 operations, this is a 2-step equation. Now let's find the inverses. The inverse of plus 32 is minus 32. The inverse of times negative 9 is divide by negative 9. The first thing we're going to do is subtract 32 from both sides and then divide by negative 9. Let's solve. Minus 32 on both sides. Notice this says plus 32 and minus 32. This is known as the additive inverse, and it's equal to 0. Now let's bring down negative 9x, and let's simplify. 5 minus 32 equals negative 27. Now we have simplified this multi-step equation to a one-step equation, which says negative 9 times a number equals negative 27. So the inverse of times is divide by negative 9. Now let's simplify. Negative 9x divided by negative 9 equals x. Negative 27 divided by negative 9 is 3. Remember, there is an invisible coefficient of a 1 and an invisible positive, but they're invisible, so we don't write them down. Now we are done. We found the value of x is 3. Now let's check our answer and make sure that it is correct. Let's start by rewriting the original equation. 24 minus 9 times a number plus 8 equals 5. Now let's evaluate. We're going to evaluate just once because there's only one variable. At this time, we don't need to look at the right-hand side, so let's cover it up. Starting from the left, let's write down what this says. 24 minus 9, there's an x, and we're saying the value is 3. Be careful, this looks like a negative 93, but we know this says negative 9 times a number. So we're going to use parentheses to show multiplication. Plus 8. Now that we have all integers in our expression, we're going to determine the order of the operations. First, we're going to multiply. We will multiply negative 9 times 3. Starting on the left, bring down 24. Negative 9 times 3 equals negative 27 plus 8. Now that we are left with just subtraction and addition, we need to make sure we remember to go from left to right. 24 minus 27 equals -3 plus 8. And now we're going to add -3 plus 8, which is 5. Now that we're done with the left-hand side, let's cover that up and look at the right-hand side. Here's the integer 5. There are no operations, and we cannot simplify this anymore. We're going to bring this down until it matches the other side. Now let's look at both sides. We're going to ask ourselves, does 5 equal 5? Yes. Because this statement is true, 5 does equal 5. This tells us that our solution of x equals 3 is correct. The answer is 3, not 5.